Hi. Gotti's right. I am one of the rare New Hampshire Jews. We didn't grow up with much religion, and I didn't really know any different. I mean, we were really only Jewish in the way that it oozes out of our pores uncontrollably, beyond our control. But I never really felt Jewish in this town, except maybe around Christmas time. You know, kids would blame me for my people killing Jesus, and I remember even then thinking, like, it's not like we killed baby Jesus. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had quite a run. All right. They always say open with a joke. All right. I'm going to read a chapter in my book that I didn't write at all. This is voicemails that my dad left me. He calls me every Saturday, and I just transcribed them. So here we go. Since the day I moved away from home, my dad has called me every Saturday. I learned fairly early not to pick up when I saw it was him, as more often than not, at least to me, his messages were comedy gold, and I wanted them on tape. My dad is a weirdo. All of his friends in New Hampshire are literally friends from summer camp. They continue to call him by his childhood nickname, Schleppy. When he and my stepmother Janice go to Boca for the winter, my father sits at Starbucks and heckles rich people as they walk in and out, saying things like, "Hey, nice Mercedes. That could probably feed like 80,000 people in India, but you need a Mercedes." He has been punched in the face 3 winters in a row. That's true. The following are a few voicemails from my father, transcribed by me. I wrote it as best I could phonetically to account for his very thick New England accent, as I feel it adds an important layer of understanding. You may pick up on his carefree sense of humor, his penchant for dialing the wrong number, and his vocal dislike of rich people. Here are a few samplings for your enjoyment. 11:10 a.m. "Hey, baby, guess who? It's your daddy. Happy Shabbos. I've been spending time with your nieces. I took Shishi to Chuck E. Cheese twice. She is so fucking cute. Give me a call when you get a chance. I leave in a couple hours, but I'll be in my car for an hour or two. Know where I'm going? I'm going to my 50th fucking reunion of UNH. It took 50 fucking years to get here. Going through it, it was all those days with you and Laura and Jodine and Susie and aggravation and business and blah, blah, blah. And you look back on it and it seemed like it took 20 minutes. The whole goddamn thing. It's amazing. It took so long to get here just to look back so quickly. So watch out, because you're only going one way, and that's older. And once you can no longer do something, that's forever. I have to tell him he got an applause break. I've been pretty goddamn lucky so far. I love you. That's my homily for the day. I love you. Give me a call if you get a chance, like if you're walking your dog or something boring like that. And I'll talk to you later. Mwah. And then to himself, I heard him go, shut off phone. 1:49 p.m. Hello, Sarah. It's your daddy calling from Boca, Florida, where there are a lot of entitled people. They wear expensive watches that tell time just like my Timex, and they drive very expensive cars that help people to know how rich they are and that they are entitled. So if you see one of them, you will know to act properly. I love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. 11:54 a.m. Oh, shit. I dialed the wrong number. That's a good one. Hi, honey. You were wonderful last night. I was on Real Time with Bill Maher, and I was wonderful. Really? I got to watch it again. Ooh, I'm yawning. Just woke up from a little nappy. Trying to get a little sleep here because I'm going to a big wedding tonight with big rich people who I don't even know. Jesus Christ. It's like they all love your evil stepmother so much they invite us to these goddamn weddings. Oh, well. Luckily, I got a tuxedo that I bought at Goodwill. Did you know that? Did you know that I bought it at the Jewish Goodwill store? Gorgeous tuxedo for $37.50 on sale, half price. Originally $75, and it's gorgeous. I love telling people how much I paid for it. Ooh, I think I need a little more nappy. All right, honey, I love you. Give me a call when you get a chance. 10:40 a.m. These are all Saturdays. Excuse me, but who is this? Is this really you? Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. How you doing, sweetie? Give me a call when you get a chance. I'm on the way to the beach club for an old swimmeroonie. Rich people live at the beach club. Poor people have to drive there. Love you. Talk to you later. He does that hard R to make fun of how I talk. All right. 11:48 a.m. Oi, that's so weird. I thought I was calling Laura. But I called Sarah. I don't mind calling Sarah. It was on my list of things to do anyway. Call me back when you get a chance. Don't try to pull that old bullshit of calling me tonight when you know I'm out. I don't fall for that anymore. Ever since it happened 40 weeks in a row. Give me a call. Bye, sweetie. 1:17 p.m. Jesus, Sarah. I was calling Mark Reingold. But I was pretty surprised when you answered the phone with the answering machine. I guess I pressed the wrong button on my phone. Just remember this. I'm pretty fucking old and things like that can happen. Oi, I just made a quick turn. Oh, I'm driving. All right, sweetie, I love you. Bye. And then after several beats, how do I shut this thing off? Okay. For this one, you need to know that New Hampshire still has like those car washes where you put your car in neutral and you give them the keys and you ride through it. Okay. Hey, baby, guess who? It's your daddy. Guess where I am? The car wash. Janice has had a baby shower and... Oi. Jesus fucking Christ. My fucking windows are down, but the buttons to put them up won't work. I'm getting fucking soaked. Then after several beats, the whole car is soaked. Here's the last one. 9:10 a.m. I remember when you were a tiny baby and I had to lift those tiny legs and wipe the shit out of your tuchus. It was fucking disgusting. All right, if you get a chance, I know you're really busy, give a call back to the guy who gave you life. That's it.
How about an applause for Schleppy?
Schleppy! This is Teresa Strasser.
Hi.
Of television and radio and Judaism.
I know I'm the only Jew named Teresa. Schleppy,
yeah.
I know. My parents were confused. Schleppy.
Hold on. Someone has a very important call. Is it? Let's pick that up.
It's probably one of their parents.
Please answer it. I want to know who it is.
Where's it coming from?
It's one of those old-timey rings. If you're going to have that old-timey ring, you've got to answer it like this. Hello? Hello?
Is it horrible that now we're calling so much attention to this poor person?
No, I know how horrifying that is.
Yeah.
I've like when you think you're turning it off, but you're turning it on.
We've all done
But I
it.
did want to know who it was and possibly talk to them, but I guess it's
I know. No? So Schleppy, along with being a great leaver of voicemails, in many ways, along with bedwetting, which we'll get to, really shaped your sense of humor. When you were a little kid, and I want you to talk about this a little if you can, he would encourage you to swear very publicly in the way that most parents encourage the opposite.
That's true. Well, it's not like he was like, express yourself, you know, it's more like, oh, my 2-year-old is saying fuck. You know, it's like, it was not very highbrow. And he is someone, as you see, who swears a lot, but always with joy. Like, it's never like, what the fuck? It's always like, I am such a fucking lucky daddy. Like, it's so endearing. You've never been more heartwarmed by fucking.
It sounds like he has fucking joie. You know?
Joie de vivre?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And, you know, you write in your book about being in grocery stores and public places and realizing that a little kid swearing is hilarious and shocking.
You know what? Yeah, I wrote about it in here, but I really didn't realize it until I was like promoting something and doing a ton of interviews. And it's almost like therapy because I realized, you know how the big things you realize are, where are these guys going? You guys have diarrhea? Sorry, I'm easily distracted.
That was weird, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. They probably both have diarrhea.
I think so. Because
I can't imagine why else they would leave.
No, clearly, and it makes sense because if they went to dinner together, they ate the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I can't eat any fancy food.
Right.
The second it goes in, my stomach is like, this is not cereal. And I'm like, it's awful. All right. Oh, yeah. So this is what I was saying. You know how, like, the big things, the big, like, mind-blowing things you realize in life, if you're lucky, you know, they're always super simple. You know, like, oh, I'm dating my father over and over again. Oh, I've got to stop recreating that.
Yeah.
Those, not that, but, yeah. Well, what I realized was, you know, I always knew it was like a funny story in the family that when I was like 3, my dad taught me bitch, bastard, damn shit, and I would like yell it in the supermarket. But, you know, it makes all the sense in the world because all these adults would give me this, this kind of approval, this shock and approval and laughter, and it became addicting. Like I realized, obviously, I was constantly looking for the next thing to get the big laughs, you know, and yeah, so it makes sense now that I think about it. Out of this totally immature thing that a young dad, you know, teaching his kid to swear, came this brilliant gift to the earth.
Well, you don't think of bedwetting, which is such a humiliating, horrible thing. I was also a bedwetter. Anyone? It's not the type of thing people generally talk, but a late
I know,
one.
like the only people you can feel better than are bed shitters.
I know.
That's funny. Will you remind me to write that down? That's funny.
Yeah, I'm going to email you that.
Thank you.
You're so right. Because you can't look down on anybody when you're wetting the bed, like at 16 occasionally and older. But one thing that really struck me about the book, because anytime I've seen you perform on television, and in particular live, I always think, God, she is so fearless. I hate getting up in front of people like I'm doing now. And like most human beings, I'm terrified. And when I see you, I just think, how does that happen? How is somebody so fearless? And you sort of make the point in the book that when you've been through a number of humiliations vis-a-vis wetting yourself in public places and sleepovers and camp, like what else can happen to you?
Yeah, I think it's like it's kind of a gift to approach life from having nothing to lose. You know, like, oh, I might bomb. I like had to go to summer sleepover camps and, you know, as a bedwetter every summer. Like I don't care if I don't get laughs. That's
right. I've had to pee on a sheet that would there was an electric.
Yeah, that came from his heart, but you know, my
Schleppy.
dad, yeah, Schleppy meant well, but you know, like, remember the metal sheet that like the second it got wet, it would go, I mean, the only thing that cured me from is sleep.
Right, yeah.
I never slept again.
The 3 bedwetters in the audience are like, yeah, the sheet. But not bed shitters.
No, those losers. Gross.
We've got to talk about the title of your book. Okay, so you went through, obviously coming up with a title is really difficult, and finally everyone at your publisher was happy with the Bedwetter, but they had issue with your subtitle, Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee.
That was the dumbest chain of emails. And I don't, it's,
yeah.
I'm not going to say that, but, I feel I'm pretty affable. I can work with people, but the only thing that I get maybe indignant about is like, I don't like when people whose job it isn't to be funny tells me what's funny. Like you've hired me. I've got a pretty good track record, and I know at least what I think is funny better than you. And I know, you know what I mean? So when they go, oh, well, I wanted it to be the Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee, which it is. And they said, we did research, and it should be Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee-Pee. And I said, no. And I think they were like, oh, we're book publishers. And they were like, well, we feel that pee-pee is innocuous and childlike and pee is like dirtier. And I said, but you have to understand that's coming from your set of hang-ups. And that's a different set of hang-ups than me. And I'd rather go by my weird hang-ups than yours. Like, to me, pee-pee is like childlike, and that's gross because I'm a grown woman. And it's more comedic and simple to say pee, Pee-pee is cutesy, and I didn't want it to be cutesy. There are reasons that it's like, it seems silly to die on that hill, and yet it seems silly to cave to people who have no idea. You can do all the research in the world, but it's still a crapshoot, so I'd rather go with my instincts than yours, but I did end up winning that one, luckily. Because, again, I always feel like I have nothing to lose. Like, I will walk away and go, nah, never mind then.
I'd rather not.
I'm not ruled by money or success, luckily.
Well,
which is, yeah.
Well, one of my favorite things about the book, and I don't know if books have fourth walls, but if you haven't read the book, the email exchange between Sarah and her editor regarding pee versus pee-pee is really a must-read. I mean, it is delightful. And one of my favorite things is, I don't know if you've ever been forwarded an email chain that you're not supposed to get.
Yes.
But you were.
Oh, yes.
And it's included.
So I added the whole email chain between my editor and I, and also added, and I mean, they had to be okay with it because they are printing it, but an email that the main editor, publisher, whatever, I don't know their name, his name's Michael. He emailed me and didn't realize that he had included, like, my editor's email to him going like, she's fucking nuts, but blah, 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 blah.
Well, he refers to you as Madame Silverman.
Yeah, of course, because if you're a girl, you're difficult if you know what you want, Right. And, but I kind of was tickled by it because they're, they didn't feel like the man to me as much as lovable buffoons. So I was just like, I'm putting that in the book. And by the way, and they were cool about it.
P wins out over PP. I think it is funnier.
Yeah, I mean, it's subjective, but I'd rather be at my subjectivity than people I don't know who have their own set of shit.
You have, but they're not bed shitters.
They probably are.
You write about something that I haven't read very much about, and yet I think it's something every young woman experiences, which is the kind of intense friendship you have when you're a young girl with another girl. And I'm just going to read a paragraph here, or maybe I should have you read it.
No, I like this.
You're talking about your friend Carrie, who you met your sophomore year in high school. And you say, when I refer to love, I mean an intense, profoundly meaningful, somewhat exclusive in nature relationship with a peer, which radically shaped me. If you're expecting to read about me engaging in teenage exotic lesbian sex, you may be disappointed or perhaps relieved. I wish I had a story for you like that, but I just don't and never did have an interest in vaginas other than for their comedic value. I feel like this kind of intense girl friendship is something that we all have, and it's sort of a hard thing to explain because it isn't a sexual thing, but it almost has that kind of charge.
I would like wait for her to come. She'd say she was coming over, and she'd be like hours late, and I'd sit by the phone, you know what I mean? But I worshipped her, and I still do to a degree. And, yeah.
And she taught you one of your philosophies in life, which is make it a treat.
Yes.
If you can explain that to the
That
audience.
completely comes from Carrie, and it's like made my life infinitely better. And it started because she went to Howard, and I went to NYU for a year, and she actually graduated. But she came to visit me freshman year, and right away I roll a big joint, and we get up in the morning, I roll a joint, I take a puff, I hand it to her, and she's like, no, thank you. And I was just like, you don't smoke pot anymore? And she's like, yeah, as a treat, not as a career. And she taught me, thank God, that it's like, shit's good as a treat. Stuff is, you can, but it's like, don't become like a stoner your whole life. Yeah, pot is fun, but like get all your work done and take a puff and have some giggles and go to sleep. But like, just because you like something, it doesn't have to become your whole thing. It's not fun anymore. And it's not just about pot, it's really about everything,
Certain jokes, for example, you can't get enough of.
That's right, because Make It a Treat became kind of rekindled when I was working on my show on Comedy Central, the Sarah Silverman program. We'd sit in the writer's room, and, we all kind of shared this love of the aggressively stupid, but, a fart joke or a guy gagging or a, like shit jokes or whatever, they have to be rare to be good. You do one too many. It's not
a treat.
It has to be a treat.
Right.
So someone would pitch something and it would just be like, how many jokes like that do we have? We'd always go like, make it a treat. I felt like that was going to be a better story than it was.
I thought it was good.
I feel like I missed an element I'm forgetting.
No, I thought it was good as a life philosophy. Anything that you truly love, once you abuse it, it's not fun.
Yeah. You know what? It's like, I started dating this guy, and we couldn't believe we had found each other because all we ever want to do at night is order in, watch Law and Order, and go to sleep. And like, I finally found, like, both of our friends, like, said, I can't believe you found your person who, like, doesn't want to ever leave the apartment and just wants to, like, watch Law and Order in. And it became every night for a long time, and then after a while it was like wasn't as awesome anymore.
It wasn't a treat.
You have to leave the apartment.
Wait,
as it turns out.
Put that down with the bed shitting, and I'll remind you of that later. I want to talk a little bit about your sisters. You're one of 4 girls, right? One of whom is a rabbi, and just for fun, her name now would be
Susan Silverman Abramowitz. Rabbi Susan Silverman Abramowitz.
Possibly the most Jewish name.
Esquire. No, I added that.
So you grow up in a very secular environment, and your sister becomes a rabbi.
Not even secular, like very Christian.
Christian, yeah, not secular. Yeah, just downright Christian.
Like I've been to church far more times than I've been to temple because you spend Saturday night with girlfriends, you get in the car on Sunday to go to church.
Right, you just tag along and hope no one notices.
Yeah, just keep a low profile.
Low pro, yeah. What do you think, how did your sister become a rabbi, and what do you think attracted her to that job?
She was actually looking at the classifieds. No. We didn't grow up religious, and but I feel like we grew up with, unbeknownst to us, with the kind of the ritual and the maybe ethical-iness of that, and turns out being kind of a Jewy thing, you know.
Yeah.
And God, transcribe this must look so smart.
Of course.
And she went to BU for psychology, and then she went to grad school at Harvard for education. And she met her husband-to-be, Yosef Israel Abramowitz, and literally the guy before him was like this guy named George with like a tattoo of a cross on his neck, you know? And Yosef just like rocked her world and opened her eyes to whatever she was meant to be doing. And she said, I'm going to be a rabbi. And we were like, it's a phase, you know? I mean, and she went to HUC, you know, Hebrew Union College. She was the only student who didn't speak Hebrew. And she graduated like top of her class and now lives in Israel. And all her kids are, you know, their Hebrew is their first language. They have like adorable accents that are... I remember her youngest, Shishi, Ashira. Our other sister, Laura, painted her room. Like, they lived in a kibbutz. I'm getting a lot of points here, right? And they all kind of slept in the same room, there were 5 kids, but they had, like, their own wall, like, their bed. So, like, my sister would, like, paint different colors for each wall, so they had their own area. And she was the youngest, and she put a little, like, sticker of Tinkerbell on the wall. And later, she was scraping it off the wall, and my sister Susie, Rabbi Susie, said, Shishi, why are you doing that? Don't you like Tinkerbell? And she said, no. And so he said, why? And she goes, because she does not love Wendy. I know.
That's pretty sweet.
So cute.
Lot of points.
It's so, like, tough cute.
There's a chapter in your book just simply called Jew. Mm-hmm. And that you wrote at the request of your publisher.
Yeah, it started as a placeholder for the title and just worked.
It works. Simple, to the point. And you write about how you're good for the Jews. Is there any way you could possibly be bad for the Jews?
I no matter what I do.
Is there anything?
I don't know. I mean, I think Jews in general, if you reach some level of visibility, they're proud of you. I mean, I always feel like it's like son of Sam, Jewish. Jewish.
I know. I think I'm still flying high on the Fonz.
Oh, that was my first sex dream.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid. It wasn't sex, it was making out, but yeah, we were on a ski lift making out with I was on the ski lift making out with Fonzie. Then after a while, I was like, what is this with him and twins? Twins are sisters.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Fonzie always went out with, like, the Del Vecchio twins. And, like, when you really think about it, it's fucked up.
It is.
But, yeah, I love me some Henry Winkler.
Well, after Henry Winkler, you dated some people in the public eye, and a lot of things you do are in the public eye. And I'm curious how that is, because in some ways, like I said before, you've always seemed really tough to me and that you don't really care. But there got to be times when you Google yourself or somebody writes a nasty thing about you, and I wonder how you deal with that and how it affects you.
I keep the Googling to a minimum, and I try to because I realize that as comics, or maybe I think it's kind of human nature, is like people can be as complimentary, 90 people can be complimentary, and that one, or like the whole crowd could be great, and the one guy who's like this in the crowd is what you focus on, and I've kind of learned from practicing to not base what I think of myself on strangers or outside things. I mean, you guys might not even exist. You could be like a figment in my brain, so why would I let you make me feel like shit about myself? But the only time it really strikes a chord with me is when I agree, But I figure that's good, I mean.
It resonates because it feels like, right, I shouldn't have said that. And in particular, you end up in your book discussing instances of apologizing separately to both Britney Spears and Paris Hilton for making jokes that at the time, you thought were cool, and later you thought, maybe I hurt their feelings.
Well, the thought of, with Britney, I mean, this was a time where there was such, this was supposed to be her big thing at the VMAs, and if you watch the Video Music Awards, Britney Spears has always been a brilliant spectacle. She had the big python, she made out with Madonna, so there was no doubt in my mind that it was going to be like a huge, big show, and I was supposed to follow her and do like 5 minutes of stand-up. So I knew that when you follow something like Britney, you have to do a couple jokes about Britney, and then you get into the rest of your material. And, you know, they're topical pop culture kind of jokes that get a little, like, roasty. And I think people assumed that I watched her do badly, and then I came out and said bad jokes, when the truth was I was, like, holding in diarrhea and pacing, going over the jokes I had been writing for 2 weeks and had no idea how she had done. So everything felt heavier, you know. And so the next day, I thought I had no idea. The next day, I did Google myself. I go, ooh, this is gonna be good. And everything said, like, how I ruined. So Britney Spears saw my jokes in rehearsal, and it broke her heart. And but that's a lie, because I didn't do my jokes in rehearsal. I only did the jokes live. So that was like their spin, but their spin made me into a monster, you know. But I also felt bad. I saw subsequently that she was like a sick young girl, and I felt bad about it. So I wrote her a letter, but I don't know if she ever got it or anything.
Paris Hilton, did she respond to your apology?
No.
Unclear.
But I think she, you know, I've seen her since. I mean, we don't hang out or anything, but she seems all right, you know. I don't think she really cares that much, but she seemed, I didn't know, this is the thing, is any of these jokes, the jokes I did about Paris Hilton going to jail way back when, I didn't know she was going to jail that night and was going to be in the audience, but even, which was the circumstance.
Now, do we refresh the audience about the joke?
God, let me try to remember it, but...
You can handle some penis stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What did I say? Oh, I said, and by the way, like, I feel like for all the weeks before this, in both scenarios, these were things that were in the news. It was pop culture, and it was... and it was jokes that had been tread upon by every talk show host, you know. I'm not saying it's a male-female thing, but suddenly I was mean, but like Leno and every talk show host were brutal, and it was just like, hey, it's a talk show, it's a monologue, you know. And I thought about that subsequently and was like, yeah, why did I get blamed?
Yeah.
Jews. With Paris... What was heartbreaking there was, I felt like it was a fairly innocuous joke, but this is going to sound mean in the context, but I was mean to everybody, and everyone was just laughing and getting, you know, like Jack Nicholson, I said, oh my God, what did I say? It was a really good one. You've been in every single one of my favorite actresses. Yeah, that was good. And I was trying to think how it's worded. So then there's Paris Hilton, and I said, Paris Hilton is going to jail. That was the setup. And before I could say the punchline, the whole audience went, yeah! You know, and the camera went on Paris, and like the lion in the stadium and the gladiator thing, it was like so evil, like the whole crowd just went mad, like just crazy, and it was so mean, you know. That was what was mean about that joke, and the camera's on her, and it was humiliating, and my heart broke, but I was in the middle of a joke, and I had to say the punchline. There was no way I was going to abandon ship for this girl.
Right.
I'm sorry.
The joke was, of course, about
they really want her to they want her to be comfortable in prison, so they're gonna paint the bars of the prison to look like penises. And then I said, I hope she doesn't chip a tooth on those things.
It's not so bad. You know, I hadn't thought about it in the context of you being the only female. You're right, everybody went after her.
And I never blame that. I never
Right.
talk about that stuff, and I don't like when, you know, when girls blame that stuff, because it's just, if you had to work harder, then work harder. It's tough for everybody in one way or another. I mean, how many white male comics are there? That's got to be hard. There's a million of them.
Sure. I know Dane Cook has it rough.
Oh, he actually does, I think.
Okay, this brings me to your sense of style, which is very unique and which you write about in the book. When you were nominated for an Emmy for a show, the Sarah Silverman program.
Thank you. Am I supposed to say thank you before the applause break?
You tell a hilarious story about a big designer offering to make you a dress. And along the way, you sort of started tinkering with the design until they took their name off of it?
Okay, this is what happened. What is it? Badgley Mishka. So they go, we want to design you a dress. I couldn't believe it. So they're in New York and I was in LA. So what they do is they take your measurements and you say the material and the color. And so we did that. And then they send the basic template for it. And you work with a local tailor that tailors it to your cup of tea. And I was like, oh, let's do this. Let's make this. It ended up looking very Ren Fair. But I loved it because in my mind it looked like a princess. And it was corseted and it was so pretty. But so they take a picture and sent it to them so that they know. And then they sat me down and I was like, are they taking my nomination away? Or I couldn't think of what it was. And they said, Badgley Mishka they want to take their name off the dress. And I thought it was hilarious. And I was like, that's okay, because that's not because it doesn't represent what their kind of dresses are, But I still had and then I said to the tailor, now I can say that I can, when people ask me who made it, I can say you. And he was like, yay. And it wasn't that bad a dress, but the thing is, in my mind, I made him take the corset out so it was looser, because I was like, it's going to be a long night. I don't want to be uncomfortable, but, there's no such thing as boyfriend corsets. They're supposed to be really tight to hold you in. So, with a loose corset, and then I had to, hold my breath in to make it, fit me, I looked like a blueberry house.
I've always thought, this is a thing, before I knew you, I always thought to myself, Sarah is doing something, and when you started, it was really, really mostly men. And I thought, she's so pretty, and I don't think she wants to distract from what she's doing. I don't think she wants to pull focus. And I always thought she must be in a hoodie and jeans because she just wants you to hear the jokes. She doesn't want you to look at her as being as pretty as she is. And I wonder if that ever came into it, or if you're just a hoodie and jeans person.
Well, I am a comfort wear person, but there is something to that. I would, you get in your head about stand-up and you're like, well, you don't want anything distracting. You don't want a t-shirt that says something or anything that can take them away from the setup of a joke, and then you lose that laugh or anything. Now I'm going to be 40 next month, and I'm like, can I cut out 2 circles here?
And I love the description of the sense of style as it was handed down to you from your parents. Not just schleppy, but your mom, who, what would an average outfit, say, be for her?
My mom was she would wear, overalls with mismatched socks, on purpose, she's an artist. And then my dad just wore Stains with some shirt underneath them.
It's not something you talk about in your book, but I'm one of your more than 1 million followers. I think you have 1,012,000 Twitter followers. Do you follow Sarah on Twitter? You're a great tweeter. I think, let's see, I wrote down a recent one that I enjoyed. I think I enjoyed this one for its simplicity. Good night, pubes. I don't ever shower in case I need a rape kit done.
Can I tell you that the Twitter, and the hashtag was SVU.
Right. I left that out.
The Twitter people, I think because, if you have 1 million followers or something, they gave me this link that is called Twitter Analytics, and it shows my tweets and like how like the stats kind of it, which I love seeing because a lot of my tweets are trying out jokes or and but for that one it said 3 times normal unfollows.
Oh no!
Yeah,
wow.
but that always kind of delights me in a fucked up way. But I mean, I didn't, it seemed innocuous to me.
I know. 3 times normal unfollows.
I know, but it always kind of makes me laugh.
And you do send pictures, which I enjoy. Because it makes me feel like I'm just in your pack following what you do. You know what I mean? I'm there with you in the writer's room. And or taking a picture of a friend's penis on his head. Right? These are the type, or drawing of a penis.
There were so many penis pictures that were going to be in the book from the writer's room because it was so out of control. I think because it's like this small group of misfit toys, and the guys, there's just me and one other woman, Chelsea Peretti, and then the guys, and we're all like so, when you're in comedy, it's like nothing works anymore. It's like, I would imagine if you were in porn, you wouldn't be able to really get off unless you had like 2 midgets and a balloon and you know what I mean? Like, just goes far deeper and deeper. So there are a couple guys that, would, that penises would come out all the time. Just like flaccid, floppity penis and balls, which in a way, we had to actually say at one point, you can't take your penis out until 5. I remember one, Chris Romano, who's actually from New Hampshire, he came out of the bathroom and he had like toilet paper around, and he had poked his penis through a hole in the toilet paper. And I go, Chris, it's not 5. And he goes, I can't help it, my dick just ate lobster. But then also, Harris Whittles, like sometimes the ideas are flowing, but sometimes we're just sitting around and it's a bummer. Like we cannot get on anything good, and the hours pass by. And then Harris would just sometimes just stand up and pull down his pants and underwear and sit back down, and that kind of like reset the, you know what I mean? Like, because it's just like a shock therapy or something. But I was only allowed 1 penis in the book, and it's a picture of. What happened was Chelsea Peretti, who was a brilliant writer, she, girls, they have their like hair clips.
Yeah, the banana
hair goes
clip.
down, the hair goes up, the hair goes down, the hair goes up. You know what I mean? It's just like a clip. And she was in the writer's room for a little while, but she was on script, so she left to go down the hall into her office to work on her script. And she had left the hair clip in the writer's room. So we put it on Harris's penis and took a picture of it. And then I emailed it to her and said, did you leave this in the writer's room?
It's one of the funniest pictures in the book. Now, if perhaps I've left out a question that you yourself are burning to ask, it's that time of the night.
You are really good at this.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, my God.
No, you. I didn't.
No, it was really...
How do you make it safe for people to laugh at you?
Well, if I may interpret, I think in a lot of your humor, you sort of play the role of somebody who's a little ignorant about, maybe possibly a little bit could be racist. You're making fun of that kind of person.
Yeah, I'm all, except for these scenarios where it's like a roast or something where it's about pop culture. Like I'm pretty much always the idiot in the joke, Not in a wide-eyed way, but in an obnoxious, arrogant way. And I think that's why. Sometimes people don't feel safe laughing, and I bomb.
Your question?
I saw your recent YouTube video. What made you put that up there with all your fame already? Why would you put something on YouTube?
Oh, I've been totally lazy with it. The one about that I have a zit?
About the pit bull, yeah, it was fantastic.
I decided I wanted to have a YouTube channel, which it turns out someone else did a Sarah Silverman YouTube channel. It's so much better, but I'm just learning because, I'm figuring out what I want to do next and everything, and then, part of me was like, fuck that. Why am I trying to be on a channel or something? I want to make my own channel. So this was just dipping my toe in it, and, I barely did anything, but I put a couple videos up, and then I just, was sitting in my apartment, and I pressed record, and I just was like, I have a pimple and I am so sorry. And I just did this for no reason, and I just thought it'd be fun to like make some dumb videos. That's what I love doing, you know. I'd rather like make dumb videos on my couch than do something that I didn't think was funny on NBC or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Why not? This isn't just a job. Like, I love doing this, you know?
Of course, each joke is subjective, but I'm wondering if there's kind of a protocol that you go through in your mind, like what's the most offensive thing I can say, what's the most extreme, especially just like observing you now. They're like very quickly thought out jokes. Are you like asking yourself any questions? Is it just an instinct that comes out? What is it?
How do you know what's over the line? Is that kind of...
I don't, because there's so many different lines that I can only go by my line, which is a little too far out, I think. But I always feel like if your heart's in the right place and that transcends, even in a tweet, and sometimes it doesn't, then, God, like I did a tweet actually that I was like instantly regretted, which is, I just thought of a stupid wordplay, which was, because I had menstrual cramps, I said, I have menstrual cramps. And I should have said, the punchline should have been, I have menstrual cramps, my vagina's in blackface. But instead, that's funny and innocuous and silly. But I go, ooh, I actually have a picture of myself in blackface from an episode of the show where I'm in blackface, and the waiter, Alex Desert, who is also in Great Schlep, is like a stereotypical Jew for the day. And I took it from that, but it was so out of context. It just looked like me in blackface, and that's crazy. You know, like and it's crazy. So I almost you can't take it back. You know, you can't erase it. So I explained it a little, which I hate explaining jokes, but it wasn't a joke I was standing by because I decided it should have been just the words. But it seemed so perfect and coincidental, but it actually ruined it. And I tried to explain it, but, you know, I think a lot of people got mad.
In the striped shirt?
So my question was, what was your writing process?
On the show?
No,
book?
sorry, with the book, with your book.
The book.
Yeah, because, you know, you're right, it's daunting, and you're used to honing things where every little word matters, and then here's, you know, probably 80,000 words.
Yeah, and you don't want to draw it out for the sake of drawing it out. You don't want to waste people's time with words that are there to take up space, you know, but you have to kind of find, you instead of boiling that legal page down to the nut, you ask more questions and tree it out and everything. And, you know, I had never written a book, and I think when I started, I wrote a bunch of the essays that I had to throw away because I was writing the way I thought writers wrote, you know, so I'm like, it didn't sound like me at all, you know, I was just trying to be like hoity-toity or something, you know, and you realize that, like, you have to just talk the way you write the way you talk, but with less likes. And, you know, it's like when I first did Terry Gross, I felt like I had to talk like, well, Terry, you know, it's like, what am I doing? You know, you have these kind of preconceived notions about, you know, what an author is supposed to be, you know, and it's just supposed to be you know.
And the process for you did involve a lot of napping.
So much napping. Like, every time I felt like good about something I wrote, I would be rewarded with some kind of figurative or literal masturbation.
Now, I know time is short, so maybe we can just take...
One last?
Yeah.
Just one question. Well, just obviously one question. Who was the comedian that when you first saw him said, I want to do that, and who influences you the most? Who's your favorite comedians? Who kind of helped you, like, you know, you had to see a comedian to know you wanted to be a comedian, I would imagine.
Yeah. God, I just remember as a kid, I mean, I saw stand-up very young. You know, my mom... or I heard it. My mom had like the Woody Allen double album and Albert Brooks, and I knew in third grade I knew I wanted to be a stand-up. You know, it's just I realize how lucky I am because I have so many friends who are so special, and they don't have that one passion. You know what I mean? Like that thing, and it's so great to know. You know, like I you know, when I was in third grade, I filled out, you know, a thing like, when I grow up I want to be, and my mom showed it to me. It said, like, an actress, a comedian, or a masseuse. And I realize now it's because I was the youngest, and they would trick me to massage them, my family, by going like, your hands are so strong, you're so good at this. And I'd be like, But I would see comedians on Letterman and Letterman himself and the comics on Johnny Carson, and even then there was like Evening at the Improv came along pretty early, like I just, I loved it. I remember seeing like the kid who played Skippy in Family Ties was a stand-up, and I was like, and like, I don't know, I knew I loved stand-up. I always loved making people laugh. It made my arms itch.
Well, you've made all of our arms itch, and we thank you. Sarah
Thank
Silverman.
you.